Everybody, this is Han coming to you with this month's Connecting Codes video and bringing out, this is going to be about our insights for May 2026. For those that don't know my work, I'm an energy mentor, so I understand and work with the energy patterns that are present and available and the wisdom that those have to offer. And so this is not a predictive tool like tarot or anything like that. I just open up, ask God to guide me along the way as I'm sharing things, and I look at what energy patterns are present. And from that, I take a look at the types of things that we're likely to see happening in our world and world events. There's so many things that interact at one time that to hone down everything everywhere in the world, there's just not enough hours in the day. But you can certainly jump over to my website, compassioncodes.com, and take a look at my work further. I do the geopolitical side of things because I do have people who are interested in knowing, okay, what types of things might be coming up in the next month that are going to, come into the spotlight or be focused on. I also put out this book every year, The Code Journey. It's a pretty hefty book with day-to-day insights, monthly insights, yearly insights for those who want to stay on top of everything. And this is also sort of like a personal growth tool to help us embrace living closer to God, divine source, compassion, and just working our way through life in general. Because let's face it, life here isn't really easy. um, as in a human form, it's not easy. It's not going to be easy. And a lot of the things that are worthwhile are not easy. They take work, they take effort. But when we understand the currents that we're dealing with, that definitely helps us to focus in and to be somewhat prepared and to have choice, to have more choice, to have more freedom in what we're doing, what we're choosing, what we're supporting, all of those things. So I do always find it a bit interesting to see what is connecting in the energy patterns and what's coming up in the world. And having that preparation, I think, is not about creating something or getting too set. It's not a, hey, on this date at this time, such and such is going to happen type of thing. It's more of the general currents of the types of things that we're going to see. So it kind of helps us see where the media might try to sway us, see where the narratives are going to be, see what focus is going to be happening. And that can, again, always be interesting to help us kind of gear up and to know. I mean, it's just like if you know a storm is going to come in, you got to have supplies on hand. That same type of thing happening. And that's what the energy currents allow us to do, is to just kind of be ready. Okay, if things are going to get explosive and there's going to be these power battles, maybe I want to always keep my tank a little fuller, or, be ready for certain actions, or set a little extra money aside to give me a cushion to deal with some things, all of those types of things, because that's where we get the most challenged, is when we're caught off guard completely and we have no clue what's happening with things. So let's start off and with this. I don't think it'll be too long today, but we'll see. Hopefully not, because there wasn't like tons and tons happening in May, but we'll address what is happening. Overall in the month, energy here, what we have accident and death energy. It's going to be an intense month from that component. So definitely there can be more that's going on. I think you have that mixture between deaths that truly are accidents and deaths that are made to look like accidents. And I think we're seeing that type of thing come up around these scientists that have been missing. They've been starting to talk about that. So we'll see a lot more coming out about that, because you just don't have a whole, group of people who have been in the same field, working in the same type of things, all of a sudden either go disappearing or turn up dead, or just leave home without their phones or things like that. So I think we're going to start to see this strange and unusual coming out. And we also have a lot of paranormal aspects that are probably going to come forward. So when we look at that in connection to world events, okay, that brings in things like anti-gravity equipment, that might be coming forth. We see more of that technology that's coming forth that, you see these little Zoom machines that, um, don't have wheels. They don't have to run on the ground. They just go. And this technology has been out for a long time. It's just been hidden mostly from the public. It's not something that's been discussed about because they're like weaponry too in some aspects. So I think that we could see more of that. Matter of fact, I was just watching some things that have to do with this sort of anti-gravity boots earlier today. Um, so I think there's a lot to come out on that. This also includes like UFO information or UAP, which is unidentified anomalous phenomena going on. Again, things that seem to defy physics, or what we've known as physics, anyways, right? I'm not so sure that they're totally defying physics, but what we've been told is reasonable or not reasonable. So this is going to, I think, get interesting. I think that disclosure is coming. I know that Trump and his team have talked about releasing things around the UFO files. Again, I think so many times these things get built up and then people get very disappointed when it's not as spectacular, spooky, scary, whatever, as it's been made out to be. And of course, there's always going to be those things that can't be released because they're maybe part of an investigation or part of um, uh, security factors or something else. And I think we're going to see a mixture of things. They may show that there is extra stuff, ETs out there and alien life and all of that stuff. Or, they may show that a lot of it has just been technology that was being tested out long before people were ready to see it in its time. So I think there's probably a variety of things that are going to come out. Um, I think also we could see some connections coming back up around these types of things with Project Stargate. And I mean Project Stargate versus Stargate Project. Project Stargate had a lot to do with using um, kind of astral traveling techniques. Uh, what do they call it? The people that go into the deep meditation. I'm drawing a blank at the moment, and they go in and they remotely project into settings. In there, I think we could say remote viewing. That's what it's called. It was based around remote viewers and the use of people who were in metaphysics and psychics and things like that. So we may see a lot more of that coming out where the government has used those things. Again, some of this may not be as spectacular because we may be learning just as much that they were, I don't know that I want to say jokes, but they were false, and not very effective things in many cases. We will probably, in connection to all of this, be learning more about government espionage going on. Um, Also, connections with the CIA and the connections that the CIA has into um, alien components or UFO components or things like that. So it's going to get a little wild. I think the Freedom of Information Act is going to be coming up in May, given around all of this, because it's some of this hidden information, this unexplained stuff coming out, and people having a right to know. So I think that's going to be pulled. I think we have some old Nixon connections that might be coming up during this time, and connections that center around some of this these projects and things that have been done governmentally um, with these non-physical phenomena, whatever you want to call it, um, and Nixon's connections with the People's Republic of China. So I think we definitely have some interesting components at minimum that are going to surface and to rise. Now, then you also have Trump, who at this point in time, and part of the thing with the remote viewing, there was always concern about that being a spying thing, a way to spy on people without putting them physically in a setting, things like that. But now Trump is doing the Stargate project. Okay, not Project Stargate, but Stargate project, which has to do with the AI data centers. And I think maybe this was a poor choice of names, perhaps. If it wasn't, probably not a great thing to have it connected with um, former projects that were about spying on people. And we certainly know these data centers and their capability can go in that direction. And I'm not standing, excuse me, um, necessarily pro or con Trump on this. I mean, everybody knows my stance. I'm not real fond of AI. I do understand the benefits. I do understand the gifts of technology, like communicating with each other and being able to put these videos out and things like that. But on the other hand, um, an AI run world and AI of this kind of magnitude. And I do understand the components very much of the need to control AI, because certainly those countries who are not working ethically and very good and being very nice to people are going to proceed with it, whether we like it or not, whether we participate or not. And that is certainly going to give them a variety of advantages. Um, that being said, I'm just not an AI person. I study technology, hardware, software, and computers. And again, I see the benefits. I see where there are benefits to things, but it's not something that I really stand behind. So I struggle with some of these pieces because I don't like seeing all these data centers put up. They do put a stress on the environment, um, on various things, the amount of resources that they take to operate and to do, and a variety of things. And there's so many, again, these pros and these cons. So um, there's questions raised around that component and how much of the Stargate project is going to turn into spying on people. Certainly, we have a lot of things moving in that direction. I know Trump enough. I'm not some close personal buddy of his or anything like that, but I know from his behavior, from his energetic patterns, one, he's very unpredictable, and who knows what he's going to expose in the process of all of this? Who knows what directions? A lot of this stuff is not in the average person's hands to be able to do something about. But certainly people do have that opportunity to get out there and speak their voice on different things. Um, and I think it is something that we have to be cautious of. And, even if Trump wasn't in the picture, there were other people who were going to push us into this total data surveillance. And I know Elon Musk plays a big role in this. He certainly does. Obviously, Bill Gates plays a big role in this. You've got big tech people playing big roles in this. And it's concerning because, again, it's pros and cons. If you there are pros about doctors anywhere in the world being able to access your medical records, right? Especially if you're in an accident and you can, they can go in and they can see what you're allergic to so they don't give you something that's going to create an anaphylactic response on you or something like that or end up killing you. Um, on the other hand, I think that it's a challenging piece because you've got all this data. Now, I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day. I said, used to be you'd have a hard copy of something, and yes, that took up space and storage and stuff like that. But pretty much you or just immediate people that you knew that came into your household had access to that information. And now, everything's on people's phones and computers and all of that stuff. And when we put all this stuff on the cloud and we put all this stuff out on AI, thousands, millions, maybe people have access to this. Every hacker in the world has access to it. It's like inviting the criminal into your home. But this is part of the world that we are living in. And I think that's part of the acceptance that we have to come to and realize. And I think that there could be some crossover things where we could see even deaths and accidents happening that are AI based, or that are supernaturally based in some way. So I think I think we're going to see some interesting supernatural connections coming out during this month, whether that is exposing ritualistic rites or whether that is exposing, other things. But I think there's going to be a direct connection between government and paranormal things that are going to be coming out in the month of May. We do have the shattered dreams energy that is present during the month of May. And I think this is hard because this is where people are having to come face to face with the truth, whether it fits their narrative, whether it fits what they want it to be or not. There's going to be this coming face to face with truth. And we have to allow those dreams to be shattered sometimes, or what appears to be shattered dreams to happen in order to grow, to have growth, and to make breakthroughs. So sometimes this is really a piece of kind of letting go of the past, letting go of some of our will, our human desires, things like that. So there may be things that we're just going to have to let go of in order to break through other things. It's kind of the nature of this world. You don't get to hold on to everything. And sometimes there are just pieces you have to release, you have to set free, you have to let go of in order to move on. And that's kind of a point we're at. And again, this can be a breaking point for some people. It can be really hard for some people. Some people might break down during that process because it's too intense for them to deal with. But the key in all of this, what we're doing and what we want to keep in mind when it comes to geopolitical areas, is those leaders who are actually working for the people and not just for their own profit or just for world power or things, um, are bringing an end to what doesn't serve us. And this can be scary for people because sometimes we think something is serving us, thus the shattered dreams. We think something is serving us when it isn't. And so we're going to have a really open mind about things when they leave our life, when they exit, when they get closed down. And plus, we're in this major transformation. We are moving into a new way of life, a new way of living. This is a big time of transformation and shifts that is going on. And some things are going to end. It's going to end and it's not going to be there. I mean, you think back to these people who are still living that lived, say, 100 years ago and what they went through. You didn't just jump on airplanes all the time. That was pretty much just military or things like that. It wasn't all this commercial flights or things, and how much life has changed and adapt. Well, our changes and adaptations are much bigger than going from airplanes being for military only to being for everybody. We are in big, big times. And I think the thing is we have to learn how to lovingly let go of what needs to be let go of, be open-minded and embrace what is coming in, see what we can do with it, see what we can work with. But at the same time, we've got to be cautious. We've got to pay attention. We've got to be practical. We've got to be responsible. All of these other pieces and components that play into that are going to be very, very important. And we want to keep in mind that during this time, again, we can't always see what is holding us back or keeping us stuck. So a lot of what's going to be happening is going to be freeing us from what is keeping us stuck, from what is keeping us restricted. And that is going to be just one of those pieces we want to keep in mind along the way, that it's not just things being taken away from us. This is a freeing up of processes. This is a freeing up aspect of what has been restricted for us. So again, this forward momentum is the direction that we're headed. The experiences that we're having, what they're doing is they're unfolding these deeper layers, the unseen, so to say. What has been kept from us is being brought up to the surface, being shown to us and saying, okay, look, here's things that have been kept from you, and here's what's going on. So more of that truth stuff coming up. The experiences that we're going to be going through in the month of May are going to be teaching us, and we need to embrace those experiences. This will push us probably out of our comfort zone. It will push us into things we may not be comfortable with, but we're going to have to face those challenges. And we don't get to the successes unless we face the challenges, unless you face the hard things, the difficult things. You don't get those successes. You end up just cycling back through harder and harder circumstances. So we need to do our best to embrace the experiences and what they're teaching us and what they're sharing with us and what is being brought up, the deeper layers of things. And this is going to, in some ways, I think, be very intense for people. In some ways, it's going to bring some ease because people are like, oh, now I see why we couldn't do this 5 years ago or 6 years ago or whatever. And now I see all these other things had to be put into place first on it. Spiritual predators are going to be brought front and center. And I think we have to be very careful about this. I have a lot of mixed emotions about religious things that are happening right now. As I say, I don't believe that, on one hand, our country was founded on Christian principles or Judeo-Christian principles, and that is going to be, considered a primary religion. On another hand, I don't feel like any one religion should be pushed on people. I think religion and politics should stay in their own court, so to say. People need to choose that. It needs to be an option for them. And just not forced on them. And I think that these are various things. I do understand some of the deeper layers again, but I think we can uphold the values and components without the religious aspects to them or forcing one religion onto people. This is all part of choice, and people have to choose that. I choose to be with God myself, but you know, um, everybody has to make that choice for themselves, what they want to align with. In there. So I think we do have to be careful because a lot of these people are going to be coming in, presenting these images, promising a lot of things. And these people who have big names, who have big followings, honestly, I'm wary of all of them, no matter how good their intentions seem to be. I don't care who they are. I don't care what spiritual leader they are. They have been used just like the actors and actresses in the entertainment industry, and many of them are caught in traps, just like actors and people in the entertainment industry have been. They're kind of prisoners in their own way, and they're being used to support narratives and to lure people astray. And the churches have been used this for a long time. We've seen this with major religious figures along the way. And we have to be very careful because this is being used to persuade people. This is being used to manipulate people. And again, this comes from both sides of the fence. It's not attached to just one side. They especially like to use guilt to control people. They'll say things like, if you don't do this, you're not with God. If you don't do this, if you don't believe this, if you don't take this action and support this, then you're not a Christian. You're not this, you're not that. Those are all guilt tactics and fear tactics. And, they, these people are used to try to get to the people in the spiritual communities. They're used to get to the people who don't normally give in to traditional or political control measures, who maybe don't watch the news all the time. So they're influenced that way. And, my opinion on this is let these, let the true leaders, they're going to be about the work. They're going to be about the connection to God. They're not going to be about a narrative. And I think that's one of the key ways to separate them, in a sense, is that their focus is more on pushing narratives of one political party or the other, than it is about pushing connection to God, or offering, I should say, connection to God, not even pushing it. And so we have to be careful. And these people are only going to be, they're about the money. And honestly, they may appear spiritual. They may be putting things out there that look like, oh, look, I've been baptized and things like that. And I'm all about God now. And I'm reborn and blah, 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 blah. And they're still all about the money. And, one of the people that I think about is like Russell Brand. And, I think he's been through a lot of things in life, but I think a lot of his stuff is an act, honestly. Um, uh, this isn't about tearing him down. He's just happens to be a core example of what's out there right now. And I see this big movement of influencers jumping on the so-called God bandwagon, and they're not really connected to God. It's just another way for them to keep their followers, and it's just another way for them to continue to influence people. And they do that because they see a lot of people trying to move towards a connection with God. And so they're trying to capitalize on that and profit off of that. So they change what their connection is. And, I've seen many of these influences that are doing that. They're, doing, and it's sad because I think some of them do have some good core intentions to them, but they are definitely misusing um, their platform, let's say, and deceiving people in order to keep profiting off of them. So we have to be very, very careful. You'll see a lot of this cross promoting between them. Like, look, you can trust me, therefore you can trust any guest I bring on the show. We just saw Russell Brand on Tucker, and we know Tucker's off on some weird tangent right now. Um, I used to like watching Tucker, but what did we learn? We learned that actually this grouping that a lot of these people are under, like Tucker and Candace and people are under, are actually a subsidiary of Fox News. And so they're not really the independent people that you think they are, that they were presented as. People were going to this podcaster industry, so they created a podcasting division, is basically what they did. And we see this again on both sides of the fence happening. It's not just one party or the other party. And they're all tied into the MSM and the mainstream media in the end, or political parties, or, aspects of the criminal network, so to say. And they want you to believe that they're all innocent and that they're not, and all of this stuff. And it's really sad, because I think some of these people used to be really good. Some of them used to actually just report things and were good at reporting things. But now I can just hear them spewing a lot of the narratives out there. So we just have to use a lot of caution because, again, these people are trying to break us down. They're trying to influence us. They're trying to hold us back um, under the guise of telling us that they're trying to move us forward. So, when in doubt, go to God, go to divine source, go within. Um, God's never going to lie to you, you know. If you're actually connecting with God, God is not necessarily going to tell you just what you want to hear. They're not going to lie. So from the 1st through the 21st, there's going to be a big emphasis, and how things work out are going to be based on how power is being used. So if leaders are using the power wisely, they're going to bring good fortune to their country, to their people. Things are going to open up. There can be these really positive aspects flowing in through that. If they're using power unwisely, there's going to be a lot of upheaval and hardship. And again, this can be a little bit deceptive because sometimes those people who are using their power wisely come under attack by people who are using it unwisely. And it's not so much that the wise one is working in unwisely as it is the unwisely people. This is getting confusing, right? Are creating the upheaval and hardships. So we have to, again, use a lot of discernment. Always discernment is important. This is going to be a time where we're probably going to see leaders and people taking chances on ideas. So they may be trying to take a different direction, a different path than what other people have taken, or do it in a different way, or things like that. But the chances that they're taking are not just some random crazy idea. The chances they're taking are very well thought out, and they have a very high probability of taking off or working out. And so even though it may appear risky on the surface, chances are it's actually quite well. Now, the key is we don't want to see those leaders who are gambling with people's money and just trying to push what they want. And this will happen where countries are extremely in debt, and that they are they're gambling on something that has a very low chance of working out, um, in hopes that it's going to, take care of their issues. And it won't. It will dig them deeper in. So that's going to get interesting to see who is and is not using their power wisely and what chances are being taken on ideas. So some of the new and innovative ideas could actually work out quite well. This is also going to expose those who do not support people in having success in their own life. There are countries out there that do not want their people to be successful. They do not want them to have their own resources. They do not want them to do well in life or to be independent or to be strong on their own. And this is a time where we'll see more exposure on those who don't want to do it. So again, we have to be able to be open-minded enough and say, man, I've been supporting this person or I like this person all the way along the line, but now you know what? They're not supporting my success. And now that I see that they're not supporting my strength and success in life, I'm not going to stand behind them. In that they have to, these political positions, these public roles are there to serve the people. That's the part of the foundation of what they were set up to do, serve the people, not themselves. And that's just something we're going to have to pay attention to with it. I also see a lot of reaction, rebellion energy in these first 3 weeks. The retaliation will bring hard lessons. So if somebody rebels and reacts and seeks retaliation on somebody else, um, they are going to be shredded. It's going to be a hard thing for them to dig themselves out of. It's one thing to stand up through legal and ethical paths, which is what we want them to do. The people again that are working for us, that are moving in the right direction, are going to do things in legal and ethical ways. They're going to work through the law of the land, so to say. But those people who are not doing that, and they're trying to provoke people into reaction, and that's where we have to be careful of is there are a lot of lies flying around out there, and they will be used to provoke people into reaction, and that is not going to benefit us. And then once that reaction comes up, they will use it against that person. So we've really got to watch those triggers out there, and we've got to be careful because this poking and prodding is going to be used against those people who are trying to do what is right. But they've got to go back in lawfully. So again, you could pay attention to that. Who's actually working through the law and who is actually doing all this provoking just to get attention off of themselves. And it will backfire. The people that are doing the provoking, the people that are trying to trigger reactions in other people, again, there's various layers of this. But if somebody is operating ethically, they won't go into the reaction. If they don't have the things to hide, they don't go into the reaction. They just take action. And that's going to be the difference in there. In that last week and a half of the month, the 22nd on through the end of the month, there's a big focus on what is practical, what is responsible action, staying focused on obligations. So this is going to be more of a work, more of a productive phase. And here, what are the facts of the situation, tuning into that. We're going to probably see more calls for accountability coming with those who are not doing their job, who are just taking free rides. So again, more of this exposure of people who have been just, living good lives off of the system, off of taxpayer dollars, things like that, and not fulfilling their responsibilities. So when people fulfill their responsibilities, it also exposes those who are not fulfilling their responsibilities in there. But that's got to be done. The work has to be done. So there's going to be a big focus on that. But it could be challenging to get the work done because this can also be a very high drama time in there. And there's going to have to be a balance. There's going to have to be a balance between the work, between play, they've got to work together a little bit. And I could see very easily, you've got a lot of these people who are working massive, massive hours, most days of the week, and they may hit where they take a weekend off just for a little personal time to reset themselves, to regroup, to bring their mind back together. And everybody's like, oh my God, they're taking a day off. And we have to be careful of this. I mean, even our public servants have a right to have a day off once in a while, as long as everything's being handled and everything's taken care of, and we're not in, a crisis that has to be acted on in that moment, which most of the time we are not. It's very, very rare that is the situation. And we've got to give a little leeway. And part of this is there has to be sometimes regrouping time. Sometimes you have to take a break to get your head cleared, to rethink things, to reevaluate the board, as they say, and to come back in and look at it with fresh eyes. And we all know that, right? We all know that sometimes you have to get up and take that break, right? Even in your workday, you need that lunch break, you need that coffee break, whatever, to clear your head a little bit so you can come back in and refocus on work. And that's a very similar thing to what we're seeing in this last week and a half. Now, when they kind of get that recalibration going on, and again, this is recalibrating, resetting things during this time. Um, this is what can actually open up to leading towards victory and advancement. But to have that victory or advancement, things have to be in divine connection. We cannot be working in corruption and then still advance and still have success at this time. So that's going to also be telling, where are things advancing? Where are they not advancing? Where are they blocked? There's always so many layers to these pieces. So we have to be very careful about just getting so reactive in the midst of all of it. Actions that we can expect to be taking. Now, the actions that are being taken by maybe political people, world leaders, things like this, influencers, can be very confusing. They can be unclear. There can be misunderstandings, miscommunications. We're probably going to see a lot of distractions used to try to get people to mess up on things that they're doing. So probably some wrenches getting thrown in the system, which may be another reason why there has to be this little bit of a break to recalibrate things, because things have to be sorted through. Hopefully there won't be too many actions actually taken. There will be work getting done, but not a lot of big actions, big decision type things being made during this time, because the mind really isn't that clear and it's not thinking very clearly about things. I think when decisions do have to be made, it's going to be more instinctually. So here again, we're probably going to see the news trying to predict things that they had known nothing about. And and Trump or whoever else is not going to be operating that way. They're going to be operating more through instincts than they will be through necessarily logic or reason or other components. And I think they're going to probably be throwing a lot of distractions in the path to try to get him to move or make mistakes or things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes up. I feel like it's going to be a little bit chaotic during that time, and there may be things that have to be corrected after that period. So this period can be great, again, for brainstorming, for kind of looking at the board, but not so great for big decisions. So hopefully there won't be major decisions that have to be made. Letting other people expose themselves. I think this is going to be that point where we're going to see some stepping back. Those people who are working ethically are going to step back, and they're just going to let people do the proverbial hanging of themselves. They're just going to give them the rope and let them do what they're going to do. And sometimes that is the quickest, fastest, easiest way to show somebody what's actually happening, is to just give people some free rein to do what they're going to do. And then it just comes very clear to people. And especially if you're a person that a lot of people are resisting or feeling challenged by, which, some people are like that. They're very challenged by certain leaders. Trump is one of those that can challenge people. But what you'll probably see him do is just step back and let them make these poor decisions and let them make their mistakes and let them expose their true ulterior motives because where, people may not want to listen to Trump if they see it happening and they see their own people doing these things, then that gets through to them faster than other methods. I do think that we are going to see hidden information released during this time, during the month of May, and that includes motives and that includes agendas. But I think, again, this can be confusing because I think what comes out may not be really clear to people, or they may not be able to process it completely, or they'll project or make assumptions about things without actually getting into the facts and the truth of it. So again, a lot of chaos in the media, I would see with this. There may be some pranks that are played during this time. People think they're being funny. They think they might be trying to scare somebody. But it can turn very dangerous, very quick. It can lead to accidents. It can lead to deaths. Um, I think that there are going to be, that's where some of the death and the accident energy is really going to come from, is things just going wrong, people not thinking things through, getting distracted when they're doing something. So I think, again, it's going to be mixed in what we see. And I think, again, this is going to tie into some of those missing scientists. Where things again go wrong. It may start off like, hey, let's create this story and let's create this image and let's start this going, but then things go wrong. And they go wrong in the process of creating that story or that image or narrative or whatever, and then things actually start happening. Again, how power is used is magnified during this month, and that's going to be a big thing. How power is used. Are people, are leaders actually strengthening people, or are they controlling them and weakening them and taking control over their lives? And how power is used is going to be absolutely huge. And this is where people really need to take a close look and say, how much of my freedom am I giving away with something? And to reclaim their freedom and to reclaim their power back. And I think there could be some uprisings around that. And that also could lead to accidents and stuff where people are believing they're taking their power back on something and get a little out of hand with it. Got to be very, very careful. And I think this is where we want to come in and build that self-sufficiency as much as possible, not be so reliant on technology. I mean, I know I do a lot of things by technology, but in the end, we need to think about what happens. What happens if it's not there? What happens if the grid goes down? Not that we're necessarily wishing for that, but what would you do if you didn't have access to this stuff? Where do you go then? What do you do? And I think that is all part of self-sufficiency. What do I need to get through? Our thoughts, the mental state from the 1st through the 3rd, so just those first 3 days of the month. Again, this very practical, responsible, focused, staying true to what needs to be done versus getting pulled off course by other people, focusing on what's best for people, focusing on simplifying things. So I think this could be a very productive time. The focus is going to be strong those first 3 days. Observation happening, seeing different perspectives. Again, getting a feel for the board, so to say. Where are other people's heads at? How much effort are they putting into things? What are the options that we have? What direction can we take things? So a lot of that going on, and focusing on that, and seeing who is with or against a happy existence. This is an interesting piece, is where are people's mindsets? Are the choices they're making, are they supporting a happy, strong, self-sufficient existence, or are they taking away from that? Going to be a big piece in that. We need to stay out of other people's battles. So this is going to be interesting. You can have somebody mediating, like Trump does a lot of mediating. Doesn't mean he's involved in the battle. He's just trying to mediate and negotiate deals and get people to, come together. and to resolve their differences. But the interesting piece will be, can he actually stay out of the battles? Can he stay in that mediator position, and not participate, not take sides on things? And that is the key, because whoever tries to take sides in somebody else's battle is going to tear themselves down in that process. Now, from the 4th through the 17th, the mindset of where people are going to be at is going to be focused on peace. It's going to be focused on, how do we bring peace together? How do we create this going on in the world? And I do believe there's a lot of leaders who actually would like that. Not all of them, certainly, but there are a lot of them that would prefer there to be more peace in the world, and to not have to be spending money and time and resources and all this stuff on wars. Um, and this is going to be a time of helping those who are struggling. So again, coming back in, we could see fraud being removed from the system more during this time. We could be seeing more things coming through saying, okay, where's their waste? Where, tracking down more of the schemes that are going on with things. We're going to see a focus on successes. But the successes have to have dedication. They have to have commitment. People have to be able to see things through. If they're not seeing things through all the way from start to finish, those successes aren't going to happen. So we have to make sure, are they being followed through on? And hopefully this will be a time where there will be follow through on stuff that has already been started. So it's coming more into completion. By whatever means that is. This is going to be a time where people need to use their wisdom that they've gained from their personal experiences to make major shifts and transformations. So even though we can be making major shifts and transformations without making major decisions, and that might sound a little strange, but it's kind of like we may already know what has to be done, and now it's following through on making them. So implementing things more than thinking about things or deciding things. A lot of what gets implemented has probably already been decided in this month. And this is really, again, going to test the dedication to something, because the shifts and the transformations are not necessarily going to go super smooth or easy. They're going to challenge us. They're going to test us. They're going to put us to our limits. And we have to break through all of those challenges in the process to see it all the way through. So again, will be interesting to see what gets completed, what is seen all the way through. And this is also going to be a time of testing other people's commitments. Are they going to just stay back in the misery? Are they going to let other people hold them back? Or are they going to be a part of the breakthrough? Are they going to be a part of the moving forward and let go? Learning how to turn failures into successes. And this is a big thing. The challenges, the struggles are going to be inevitable. But what can somebody do with those challenges? Do they take those challenges and turn them into successes? If somebody is smart, if they're intelligent, if they're good, they will understand how to take those challenges and make them a success. And they don't let them detour them from moving forward and moving on. And that's going to be a big key. And the people who have a good mind, who are well focused, who are dedicated, they will bring those successes forward. And I think this is actually going to be good, because when you're in these intense times and a lot of things are being pulled away in life, you need a little hope, you need a little success to come through, and people need to be able to see that. The 18th through the end of the month, the mindset is much more philosophical, much more esoteric based. So here again, this really plays into that. People misunderstanding things, not seeing clearly on things because they don't understand the philosophy, the thought behind something, because it's not necessarily following normal logical processes in there. So it's a much more esoteric approach. It's learning through the experiences. And again, a lot of people, they don't learn something unless they experience it. They have to firsthand have the experience to understand something. And this is where sometimes this comes back to also giving some of the corrupt people enough rope to hang themselves, because until people realize that some of the corruption's policies are not for their benefit and they're not for humanity and they're not for the good of people, and until they experience that, they don't understand them. They don't get it. And this will be a time in this last, half of the month that people are going to start realizing, oh, okay, now I understand this different perspective because now I'm living it and I see how they promised my taxes were going to be lower, but they're raising my taxes. They promised this, but it's getting worse. And they start to see and connect the pieces through their experiences. And this is a time where I think too people might even open their mind a little bit more and and be able to look at the other side's perspectives on things and go, oh, now I understand why they're saying this. Now I start to see why, you know, where this information is coming from, or why this was needed, or why we couldn't go through with something sooner, or whatever the case is. So during this time, there can be a lot of brainstorming, I think, too, of ideas are flowing in that can generate success. Now, again, do we necessarily want to implement them at this time? Probably not. We probably want to research them a little bit more. We want to look into them further. Again, there's going to be a lot of distractions, a lot of unclear thinking coming in at this time. So it's not really the decision-making time. And I think that is an important thing is that we want to relax and chill out where the decisions are not being made and just support the successes that are coming through on things. We have a lot of changes of plans, a lot of unexpected upheaval. So people are going to will see leaders or things happening where there's a sudden shift in directions, a sudden change in the plans. Everything may have been going as planned, but again, when these distractions get thrown in your way and things become clearer and you see things that you didn't see before, or something surfaces or whatever, you get a new piece of information, you have to integrate that, and that can lead to the change of plans. Again, these distractions are going to be used to create this upheaval to try to block the forward momentum or forward movement of plans. And that is also going to weigh in very heavily on that to a certain extent. So that's another reason why things could shift very suddenly in there, is because you have to stop and rework things to a certain extent. Now, the soul's energy, of course, this is where the heart energy is, the more emotional energy that is coming in here. And, what is going to hold us more with that divine connection in what's happening? And a big part of what's going to do that in the month of May is to stay focused on the breakthrough. Don't get wrapped up in all of these distractions and various things that are trying to pull us off course, and the misinformation and the miscommunication. It's kind of like, okay, there was a misunderstanding, there was a miscommunication. Now let's move on. Let's get past it. Let's break through this. Let's get into those successes. And we need to stay focused on that breakthrough, especially when we feel like we want to break down. And I think there will be probably a lot of people who feel like, what's the point? Let's just give up. Why are we even trying? Well, the point is so we don't keep repeating the same things we've been in, so we don't go back through things again under harder conditions than what we've already been through them. Part of this is setting up for future generations. This is breaking karmic cycles. There's a lot of components of why it's so important to just keep breaking through on things and not just letting it, again, distract us and send us into these spirals. So if we're going to work in the soul's energy, we're going to get those breakthroughs. So we're going to stay focused on the breakthrough, realizing that, yes, this is hard to go through. This is challenging. This is tough. This pushes us to our limits. But the end result when we break through it all is worth it. It's worth going through the challenges on. Transforming aspects of our past to create a stable and favorable future. And that's what these breakthroughs are about. It's about creating that more stable, favorable future, and transforming these challenges of our past, transforming things that haven't been working, and bringing them into a space that will move us in a favorable direction. And this is very hard and very disorientating, because the exact same thing or method or process can lead us into great devastation and it can lead us into a great future. And that's why I think so many people feel so insecure and so unstable with things, is because the very same thing can be our blessing or be our curse, so to say, in it. But the transformation, and that's again, that's where if somebody's working from the soul, it's like, okay, we got to make these shifts if we are going to have a favorable future. Um, Even as much as I don't like the AI stuff, I would much rather have somebody um, handling it that can who can keep the corrupt players in check than somebody who is in total corruption. It's, I wish we didn't have to go down this path, but at the same time, again, it's a very tough thing. It's all going to depend on who's handling it and who's in charge. And there are certain countries you don't want to have in charge of it, just like you don't want Iran having a nuclear weapon. There are certain countries that you don't want having total control over all AI and technology either, because it is not going to be a pretty picture and it's not going to be a favorable direction. So, really looking at this and having the foresight, we're going to have the foresight to know where did we make mistakes in the past and what do we need to do different? So much of what we're going through now, we have one chance at it, and we've got to hold the soul alignment. We've got to hold this God connection through the process of it and keep moving things to uphold the God connection, the divine presence in the world. Responsibility is huge, and responsibility will help us to bring stability. It will help us to have strength moving forward, to have a reasonable life. And I think that that's important. And we are going to have to come into that responsibility. And responsibility is a big soul piece. Again, it takes work, it takes effort. It's not a free, easy ride in many ways. But when we are operating responsibly, and that comes down to not just our leaders, but that comes down to us as individuals, how responsible are we living in our own lives? And when we are working in responsible ways, we increase divine connection. Balancing work and play. People have got to have time for fun. You can't just work, 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 work and never have any fun in life. People will actually become more productive when they have the opportunity to have a little fun, when they have those little breaks in there. And people need that balance in there. That being said, of course, people need to be held accountable for when they're not doing the work that they need to be doing and all they're doing is playing. And there, that of course, again, is a soulful piece in there. But making sure that, because we have to renew our soul. In the midst of the challenges and the hardships, we have to take the breaks to renew our soul, and the play is doing that for us. But again, we've got to get the work done. And I usually like to get the work done first and then take the time for play. And then we need to work with others and not try to control them or let them control us. And so if we've given our power back, we've got to take our power back. If we've given it away, we've got to take our power back. And we're going to see some of this. And again, this may upset some people, but it's like, hey, we've given so much away, and now we have to take it back and we have to take care of our own people. Because if we don't do that, we're putting ourselves in a devastating direction instead of that favorable future. We also need to learn how to work with others. We may not like them. They may not choose the same things we do. Countries like to run themselves differently. They're based on different foundations. But we don't get to control them. They don't get to control us, but we need to work together if we're going to have a peaceful existence. We're all cohabitating on this earth. We've got to figure out how to get along without having total control over everybody. And I think that this is a core thing. And I think that has been a lot of focus that has been trying to go on is how can we do this? How can we work with countries that maybe we don't support their beliefs necessarily or their way that they run things, but we still have to do business with them. We still need to get along with them. We still need to have peaceful relations with them. And this is going to be huge. So It's going to be interesting again. If a leader or politician is working in the soul connection, then they are going to be focused on positive relations, even with people that they don't get along with, even if with people that they don't agree with. And so that's kind of where we're at. We do have a lot going on one hand, but on another hand, it may not be as while uneventful. There's certainly going to be some dramatic points along the way during the month, as we recognize there's certainly going to be some interesting, mind-blowing pieces. We're certainly going to be taking some big leaps further along, moving into transitions and shifts on things, and it's just going to be really interesting to see what comes out with it. I hope you guys all have a good month. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and like the video and share it out. Hopefully this has been useful or enlightening, or just giving you a little different perspective on things that might be going down, and a little heads up on things that might be going down. And you know use that. As I say, we don't have to be overly involved in everything, but awareness is very important. Knowing what's coming down, knowing what is getting thrown at us, definitely allows us to deal with things. And feel free to check out my book, check out the website, compassioncodes.com. Pick up your own copy so that you don't have to wait for the video to come out. And there's so much more in the book than what I cover in these monthly videos here and on social media. So it's always nice to have your own copy where you can look ahead and see what's coming down the pike, and that kind of helps you plan. It kind of helps you have that heads up on what we're going to be dealing with or faced with, and to know when there is a lot of deception coming out versus when there's a lot of truth coming out. And thanks. Take care, everybody, and I will see you next month.